Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up alone light years from Earth on a spaceship. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance from killing the sun and thus saving the Earth. And yet, an unexpected friendship may be the key. That is Project Hail Mary, which is directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, and we're going to help you decide whether or not it's the right one to watch as a Christian right now. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Project Hail Mary is rated PG-13 for some thematic elements, as well as some suggestive references. So we're going to dive into any convictions you may have that may prevent you from watching this movie, any theological themes present within it, and wrap it up with my own personal thoughts on the film. So without further ado, let's dive into the Christian Conviction Meter. The Christian Conviction Meter is 5 convictions that may distract or hinder your relationship with Jesus. Ultimately, this is a resource to help you figure out if Project Hail Mary aligns with the convictions that God has given you. And kicking things off with our violence and gore category here, there's a little bit here. The most we do see is going to be some explosions and some fire. There also is a scene in which a character is hit. We do see some wounds that are on his face. At the same time too, there are a few more action elements contained within this space voyage. Although it doesn't really have an emphasis on the action, it's not an action film by any means. It is very purely a sci-fi film, but there are still some action elements within that, with this journey being essentially about saving the world. And so all of that to say, we are going to give this a 2 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is lust, and the most we do see within this movie is a brief reference to a very suggestive voice when coming up with some voices for a certain character. That's about all I'm going to say for that. Of course, they don't choose it. It's meant for laughs at the end of the day, but there really isn't too much here. We are going to give this a 0 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is substances, and there's a little bit here within this film. There is a celebration in which several different types of alcoholic beverages are consumed. Most of what we do see within this movie is going to be your beers and maybe a few harder liquors contained within there. Very early on in the film, our lead character, Dr. Grace, does consume some vodka, so that is a part of the film as well. And there also is a very brief reference to heroin, but no drugs of that sort is used or contained within this film. All of that to say, just to be on the safe side here, we will give this a 3 out of 5 in this category. Our next category is profanity, and surprising for a PG-13 film, I really didn't see any sort of language. The PI word is a part of the movie, and there also is a few OMGs contained within this film. To be on the safe side, I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5 here, but for a PG-13 film, I'm very shocked that there is no real language contained within this movie. And our last category is intense/horror scenes. This is not a horror movie by any means, so there are no horror images or sequences contained within the film. I will say this just to be on the safe side here, there is a very brief jump scare when a new character is introduced, meant to kind of be a little funny in their reactions, but that's about it there. There also are a few chase sequences. A character is knocked unconscious a few different times, one by injection, the other by just sheer impact of events within the film. At the same time too, there also is a few deaths within the film. Their bodies are kind of around in the film until they are released and kind of have a proper funeral within the movie. That's about as beating around the bush as I can get it to avoid spoilers for you guys. But this film does have a little bit here. But again, just like the violence and gore category, it's not super heavy. We are going to give this a 2 out of 5 here. So our grand total on the conviction meter is going to be an 8 out of 25. This is a little bit lower on the conviction meter. Of course, the highest category we do have here, or the most moderate, is going to be our alcohol and drugs, our substances in particular here. But all of that to say, if anything we talked about compromises your convictions in any way, shape, or form, don't worry about watching Project Hail Mary. no show or movie that we review here is more important than your relationship with Jesus, so make sure to keep him first. This leads us beautifully into our next conversation as we dive into some theological themes that are present within Project Hail Mary. And there really isn't much here. This is a sci-fi epic, and a lot of the times within movies like that, you don't see a lot of conversations about faith and about God and Jesus. We do have a very brief conversation in this film, however, in which our lead character, Dr. Ryan Grace, talks to a character and asking, do you believe in God? And if I remember correctly, the character says it brings them more comfort. And that's about it for this film. There isn't any characters praying. There isn't any other references to Jesus, the Bible, Christianity, the church. None of that is contained within this film. Just that very brief conversation about God is all. So with that wrapped up, it's time to dive into what I think of Project Hail Mary. And I just want to get this out of the way before we really dive into the nitty-gritty here. I have not read the book. So this is coming from a very brand new perspective. I went into this movie with the fact that I knew it was a sci-fi film starring Ryan Gosling, directed by, honestly, I think a very fun directing duo with Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who've directed the Jump Street films, and they've directed the Lego movie, and they, of course, have been a massive part of the Spider-Verse franchise, which I'm a massive fan of. So I went in with some pretty solid expectations, but still unsure of this whole entire thing. And I can definitely say I got a fun, charming, enjoyable film starring Ryan Gosling, and it was exactly what I was hoping for, and we got that within this film, which was very, very nice. Story-wise, they do have the benefit of it being based on a book that you can pull a lot from this to create the film. And I think story-wise, it's really, really good. It's, for the most part, fairly easy to follow, but yet it is also very enjoyable. Some of it can be a little predictable of, this is a little too optimistic, so where's the punt? Oh, there it is. But again, that's your classic story beats. And I don't hold that against the film. It's your classic storytelling. And so it's still done very effectively. Which leads me into talking about Ryan Gosling, who I continue to be a very big fan of. And he is fantastic in this role. I really enjoyed him. I was a little curious with how Ryan Gosling would operate as a teacher and how he kind of fits into this. But he brings the right kind of charm, the right kind of humanity that Dr. Ryan Grace needed for this film. I personally wouldn't be surprised if he does end up receiving an Oscar nomination for this movie in particular. I think he just did a fantastic job. Dr. Ryan Grace is not a hero by any means. He is just a ordinary guy who is a science teacher. Well, not ordinary. He understands a little bit more about science than most people, myself included in that. And yet, he portrays him very relatable, because it's not like he's this super heroic person. He's a very relatable character that we all can follow and gravitate towards. And that ultimately lends to the emotions that this film brings, and also lends to our enjoyment of this unlikely friendship that occurs within this movie. And while this film deals with a lot of heavy subject matters, it is talking about the end of the world as we know it, and what's happening to the sun and things of that sort. Unlike other space sci-fi films, which tend to deal with the gravity of that, in particular I think Interstellar does this very well, this film is the opposite, and where it portrays itself as very optimistic. I left the theater with a smile on my face, very happy, very optimistic about the world and the people within it, and I think that is the point. Whereas something like Interstellar deals with the gravity of decisions, the gravity of choices. This is very optimistic and kind of joyful in those. And it's not to say it doesn't touch on emotions. It has some very heartbreaking, sad moments within the film, and they're still handled very, very well. But throughout the entire film, it's a lot more of a joyful sci-fi film than I was expecting, and I really appreciate and I really dug that part of the movie. And this film also has just a surprising amount of heart. That's a lot of the movies this year. if I'm being honest. But this film has a ton of heart to it, and that just makes it really, really great, as it deals with just interplanetary friendship, communication, saving the world, bravery, all these different things about coming together is really, really cool. And it's a very core and yet powerful piece of this film that just makes it an absolute joy. This is a very fun, entertaining, I believe, rewatchable film this year. I have no shadow of a doubt, in my personal opinion, that this is going to win potentially some awards come next year's Oscar season. I mean, just visually, this film is stunning. It's got a great soundtrack. There's a lot to this film that's very, very good. And yet, it is still and is very enjoyable. Even for someone who's never read the book, I genuinely love this film. I think at the end of the year, it could very well be in my top 10, maybe even top 5. I don't know. There's still a lot to go for this year, but it can very well be in my top 10 movies of 2026. That shows you how much I enjoy this film. As of right now, it is the best because I'm giving it a 9.3 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoy this movie. I think it's just fantastic. If you have the opportunity to see it, I highly recommend checking it out in theaters. I mean, visually, it's just so captivating. I got the chance to even see it on the 70mm screen in, not necessarily IMAX, but it still was just fantastic. Overall, a really great theater experience, so highly recommend checking it out in theaters if you have the chance. Those are my thoughts, so let me know yours down in the comments below. Let's chat all things about Project Hail Mary in the comments, and while you're down there, consider hitting that like and subscribing for us, joining our community here on YouTube. It just helps to send us out into that algorithm, allows us to reach more Christians to help them utilize their convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. It means the absolute world to us. Before you go, there's a few video recommendations over here that YouTube is suggesting to you. Something. I have no idea what they picked for you, but check them out there, and we'll see you all in the next one.